Hey everyone, I'm Matt, and this is Kara with Ozark Overland Adventures. And on this video, we wanted to walk you through the process of planning for an extended overlanding, off-roading, car camping trip. Because in 2 days, we leave for Utah.
Yeah, super pumped. And we're doing it a little bit different this year. We're not taking the Gladiator as much as you want to, and I kind of do too, honestly, but double vehicles, double gas, less time spent together. Just not this year.
Nope, not taking Sully.
And we're not taking the camper either, so we don't have as much storage because we're taking my Trailhawk.
Yep, gonna do this completely different. This will be our 5th summer to go out west. This time we're spending the whole time in Utah. And yeah, like she said, we're just taking the Trailhawk, and the last 3 times we've taken the camper with us. We've had lots of storage. And we're not staying in any hotels except for just on the way out there and on the way back. The whole main 9 days that we're there, we're camping.
Yeah.
And so that includes all our meals, that includes showers,
That's
all
really
our gear.
That's really the only thing that'll be base camp too. Like whenever we leave as a base camp, we'll just have like a shower set up left there because my tent's on my vehicle.
Yeah, so totally different style of trip than we've done in the past. And because of the challenges of packing the things that we need in her Trailhawk, not having the camper, the space that we've got in there, we wanted to walk you through just the whole process that we've gone really for the last, I mean, some of it's been the last year since we got back from Colorado last year that the process started for this trip. And we just want to walk through kind of the checklist of what you need to do and prepare for and have done in preparation for a trip like this, so that, you know, if you choose to do something like this, hopefully this will help.
And also hopefully this will maybe help us to catch anything that we've missed because while we've been planning this, it's down to it.
We've still got a couple things left to do.
Yeah, we still get groceries, so we need food. There's that.
And download maps. Make sure that's done.
Make sure it's Tetris in the back of my vehicle. So
So anyway, we're gonna walk you through it.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching. Ozark Overland Adventures is proudly supported by the More Expo, the Midwest's only indoor event for adventure travel enthusiasts. Artemis Overland Hardware. They have the passion and knowledge to ensure that your next outdoor experience is more than a camping trip, it's an adventure. And the Big Iron Overland Rally, a 3-day weekend campout and concert experience at the Big Brutus Historic Landmark. So obviously the first thing you need to do in planning any type of extended trip is location and dates, because there's some places that you're not going to go certain times of the year. Like I see people post on Facebook a lot, like, hey, I'm going to Colorado in June, what trails can I run?
None.
The answer is none. Because most of the trails in Colorado, because of snow, they don't open up till end of June, early July. We've actually seen Black Bear not open until August. We've seen Pearl Pass not open at all. So location and dates are key, and you need to plan this stuff out, you know, in advance.
And also, not only snow, but there's landslides and avalanches and all the things that could happen. And so sometimes those close trails too.
And heat. We can tell you from experience. Moab, not the best place to go in August. I mean, we did it. We camped at elevation, but when we were running the trails, it was like 110.
Yeah, it was really warm.
But we were by ourselves on the trail, so you know it did have pluses. So location and dates, very important. And for this particular trip, going to Utah, we had to start planning crazy early because we're going to Canyonlands National Park and running the White Rim Trail, and you have to reserve your campsites in advance. Well, I started trying to do that end of 2020, and every single one of them was booked up. So we had to adjust our dates a little bit. And for June 10th, when we're gonna be hitting the White Rim Trail, those dates didn't open up until February 10th. So February 10th, bright and early in the morning, I was up on the computer trying to get our campsites, and those things went crazy fast. It was like a lottery.
And not only that, there was a time change.
And then we had to do the time change. So we almost didn't get campsites, booking them February 10th to June 10th.
Yeah, he would have them in his cart, and then he would go to pay, and it would say it was unavailable.
Yeah, so it was a thing. So location and dates, plan way ahead, very important. And next, you know, you really need to pre-plan your routes. And what you do will vary if you're going by yourself, like which we've done before,
It's
or
been a
if
while.
you're, it has been a while, or if you're going with a group. Because if you're going solo, you can be a lot more flexible and just kind of wander around, kind of go with the flow. But if you're going with a group, probably need to put a little bit more effort into actually planning the trip, trying to pick campsites.
Yeah, and if
You know.
some people may not have winches, so you have to figure out like where you're gonna go.
The
like,
technical level of the trails,
levels,
yeah.
And then even like you said, the campsites, knowing how many people will fit in there, and not only that, time, because the more people that you take or that go with you, the longer these trails are going to be. So that's less trails that you can actually complete in a day's time period.
Yeah, and my advice, if you are planning a trip and are going to take other people on, and this may rub some people the wrong way, but I highly believe this. If you are the one kind of in charge of this trip, plan the trip that you want to take. Like just plan out the trip that you want to take, and then invite people to join you. Because if you try to get everybody involved first and then plan out the trip, everybody's going to have different opinions. Everybody's going to like, well, I don't want to run that trail. I want to run that trail, or I'd like to go visit this scenic thing, or I'd like to go do this activity. And I can assure you, you're going to end up frustrated, and it's not going to be a great time. So,
or have the expectation that some days those people can go, like you can split off.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually had that last year on our Colorado trip. There was a group that wanted to
great.
go to Moab. We didn't want to go to Moab because we'd already been to Moab, and we wanted to do the scenic thing. So we and a couple others stayed behind, and the rest of the group went to Moab, and then we met back up a few days later. And that worked out really well,
Yeah,
and
it
everybody
really
was happy. So planning your routes, campsites. I've actually got a whole video dedicated to finding campsites. So I'll put that link up here. But plan that in advance and have multiple campsites, kind of mapped out. So if one's taken, two's taken, you've got options. And you're not wandering around at night looking for campsites, because that's not fun. As far as actually planning the route goes and where we were going to go, I mean, we mentioned planning the campsites as early as into last year. But as far as picking the routes and stuff and studying those, I started doing that really just almost as soon as we came back from Colorado last year.
I was about to say, pretty much whenever we finish, we're planning the next.
Yeah, because this is a yearly thing for us. But, just Google the places you want to go. We're going to be running the Rim Rocker Trail from Montrose to Moab. That's how we're starting this trip. And there's a lot of information about the Rim Rocker Trail online. I mean, there's just Google and research the areas that you want to be in. Look at trailsoffroad.com, look at other websites for route ideas and that sort of thing.
So also look at this book, The Fun Treks Guide. This is the 3rd edition. To Moab, there's one for Colorado. But like, for example, I've been reviewing Hell's Revenge because I'm trying to figure out Hell's Gate in my Grand Cherokee.
Yeah, and that's going to be a really technical trail. It is going to happen. I think she's ready. I know the line of spot,
okay.
But she was watching a ton of YouTube videos last night on how to drive Hell's Gate, because we're used to doing it in Wranglers, which are honestly pretty easy. But the Grand Cherokee is a whole different animal. Kara is currently doing research on non-solid axle rigs going up Hell's Gate.
He's in and out.
So depending on your skill level and what you want to accomplish, be sure and research those things so you're not getting yourself in over your head before you go.
Another thing that you need to consider is, where are you going to stop to get your water, or where are you going to stop to dispose of your waste and trash? Yeah, because I mean, depending on how long of a trip you're going on, you're definitely going to have to get more water along the way, unless you're carrying 20, 40, 30, 40 gallons of water with you. But like for us on this trip, like I said, we're just taking this. I have a water port.
We're not taking the camper, so we don't have ample supplies for water. So we're taking 10 gallons, like in the rig, on the rig. We've got 10 gallons of water, and that'll last us a few days.
Conserve.
less if when we take a shower. So we've got to take a look at where are we going to stop and get water. And mention the waste disposal. We have a portable toilet that flushes, and it's kind of like a little RV toilet that we take with us. So, after a few days, that's going to fill up. And we don't want that sloshing around and potentially spilling in the Jeep.
In the back of the vehicle.
And that would be bad. So, be on the lookout, or you can just, do a Google search for RV dump sites in and around the area that you're going to be to find both water and waste disposal. So don't overlook that, because that could be a real game changer.
And also, even if there's not an RV place, I know that we've stopped before in Ure at like hotels, and they have a lot of times like a water faucet outside that you can fill up water with.
Yeah, there's other options for sure.
Yeah, so just don't think that RV places are the only places. Be resourceful, and always don't be afraid to ask. I mean, the worst they can say is no.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
So let's talk about packing, because the vehicle you have, and if you're just using your vehicle, or if you've got a trailer that you're taking, the size of your rig and storage capacity definitely is going to impact what all you can pack.
Yeah, and coming from a camper to a vehicle is a little bit different, because we are in the mind of we have plenty of room.
Yeah, and now not so much. So
it's Tetris.
We are having to really plan out how we pack everything in here. And I mean, yeah, we could just throw everything in there, but I get really frustrated if when I get to, or let's say we're on the trail and all of our stuff is in here and it's time for lunch.
You need something at the bottom.
I don't want my food tote on the bottom of a bunch of gear to get. I don't want my table to be under a bunch of stuff and have to basically unload the whole back of the Jeep just to make lunch. So thinking through, our quick little tables here, our food tote's going to go right here, the fridge is here,
Toilet
other
paper.
little kitchen tote thing, toilet paper is accessible. Those things matter.
Yeah, they do.
And so really think through that. And so just the other day, we completely loaded this rig up to see what that Tetris was going to look like, to see if that was going to be doable, and how it was going to be unpacked for lunches on the trail and unpacking at camp, that sort of thing.
And not only that, you want to make sure that you're using stuff that will get the most function. If you're even doubting it, really evaluate that, because that could be taking up space that something else that you need could.
And make sure that your recovery gear is super handy, because the last thing you want is to be, possibly major off camber in a very bad situation, and you can get out of your rig, but you can't reach your recovery gear, or worse yet, try to unload stuff to access your recovery gear.
Even more so if you're alone.
Oh yeah,
That's
absolutely.
huge.
Definitely. So be real mindful about where you put your recovery gear.
And first aid too. You want to make sure that any of that's kind of handy.
Actually, just put our little first aid kit under the passenger seat. So, and some of the stuff depends on if you're going solo or in a group. So for example, we're going with friends to Utah. He has a Jeep Wrangler. He's bringing his little off-road trailer. And why is this raising?
I don't know.
That's weird. I've never seen that before. And so at no point will we be alone on the trails. So because our space is so tight, I'm actually not taking recovery gear in this rig, because I know that James has it and it's readily available. And he's taking some stuff and we're not taking some stuff. And
there's some things that we got together and kind of collaborated with, like the fire pit. Like, do you have room for the fire pit? Because technically sometimes it gets ashy and you don't always want to carry that in the back of my vehicle. We don't have a truck bed now, this one. So, and then like trash, as you can see on here, there's no place really to put a trashery because it's not set up for that quite yet. But we asked them, because they have the capabilities to do that. So you may want to get with the people that you're going with, if you're going with somebody, and see, just kind of work out, kind of like the meals that we all pitch in together sometimes. Do that with your gear too.
yeah.
Okay, so no matter if you're using Onyx or Gaia or any other type of off-road map system, make sure that before you go everything has been updated and that you've downloaded the area for that you're going to. And that means the specific maps as well as far as the layers within that area that you save. So for example, I have some from Colorado and some from Moab. Obviously I have the Ouachitas and the Ozarks because that's where we're home. But there's different maps that I choose for whenever we're going out west that I wouldn't choose for here. There's like Nat Geo and some other things as far as the dark sky. I like to do photography, so I like to know more about that. But yeah, so make sure everything's downloaded and synced before you go. And I do that, as you can see, across multiple devices because I may change a route or something on the trail or at camp one night, and I want to be able to look at that at a bigger screen, so we would download it across whatever devices you're going to be using.
So let's talk food, because food for us is, we love eating food at camp. We love prepping food at camp. I just love camp food. There's something about eating a steak at camp, at a beautiful campsite, that's, I don't know, better than eating a steak at home.
We didn't get these curves from nothing.
That's right.
Someone told us at the off-road park, I can't remember his name. He says, y'all sure do like to eat.
That's true. So the food you take, well, obviously that's going to depend on how long of a trip, how many people, and if you're solo or with a group. Highly recommend that if you're with a group, plan some group meals so that you don't have to be responsible for everything.
Yeah, it also kind of goes with what we were saying about the rig supplies and everything. You get together with the people that you're going with. And I'm not saying every meal has to be shared. Maybe it does. That's up to you. But we like to plan meals with each other. And then also another thing that I like to do, eat local. So I usually plan, like, in certain places, there's specific places that we like to go back and eat at, like in Moab. Quesadilla. That's our favorite food truck there.
But how much food you're going to have to take is obviously dependent on how long your trip is. And are you just going to be 10 days completely off grid and with no access, going through towns?
Mm-hmm.
Or like our trip, we're not going to be more than 3 days away from a town. So for right now, we're only packing about 3 days worth of food, not including the snacks, but only 3 meals that we're going to be preparing at camp, because then we'll get into Moab and can go to the grocery store again. And I like going to local grocery stores too.
And it's honestly mostly lunches, because one of those nights we're doing a meal with James. They're cooking one on Saturday night and we're going to cook one on Sunday night.
Yeah, so starting out, we don't have to deal with a whole lot of food for this trip because we can replenish in town. So something to think about. Another thing you want to make sure you do before you go out on a trip is to check all of your gear. And if you've got any new gear, make sure you know how to use it. We've actually got some new gear that's going with us on this trip, and we have gone through the process of fully setting it up, tearing it down, making sure it works, making sure we know how to do everything so that, for example, if we roll into camp late one night, we're not fumbling around in the dark trying to get things set up and that sort of thing. So go through each of your gear. So if you've got old gear that's going with you, make sure it's in good condition. If you've got new gear, make sure you know how to use it and have at least set it up around the house before you go so that you're familiar with it. And just like with your gear, make sure that your rig is in good working order. Now this is a very new rig. There's not a whole lot that I'm worried about this, except for just checking the fluids and that sort of thing. But if you've got an older rig or one that you've wheeled hard, make sure that all your maintenance is up to speed on that. Last year in Colorado, both one of my friend's rigs and his Toyota Tacoma on our drive out there had a wheel hub go bad. And so we had to stop and change his wheel hub and actually his brakes in a O'Reilly's parking lot right before we hit Medano Pass in Colorado. Luckily it went out before we actually got on the trail. And then after we got off the trail in Crested Butte, mine went bad. And so we were actually having to scramble and get me to an auto parts store in Gunnison so that I could change my wheel hub. So make sure that your rig is maintained and that everything's in working order so that you don't have those issues when you're out on a trail, because that can be incredibly frustrating. It can ruin a trip, especially if you break down, have to get a tow truck. That can be crazy expensive. So make sure your rig is in good working order and that you've checked all the boxes on it before you head out. So, last but not least, be sure you know the weather for where you're going. The last thing you want to do is have some freak massive rainstorm come up that you're not prepared for, or if you're going out in the mountains and from the desert to the mountains and you're in shorts and t-shirts, it can get still really cold in the mountains and you don't want to freeze. So make sure you're prepared for the weather and check it literally the last minute, because if you're coming here to Arkansas, the weather's not even valid until about 24 hours out. So just make sure you check the weather and are prepared for that with clothing, weather gear, that sort of thing.
Yeah, that brings up a good point, because if you get cold going to Colorado and say there's a burn ban, you can't start a fire there in Colorado, you're going to be cold.
Yeah, you're going to be real cold.
And also, wherever your campsite location is, like in Moab, up on the rim, or where it's windy, you want to make sure you're prepared and you put everything down, so that way whenever you're going on the trails, you don't come back and things are over the edge of a cliff.
Yeah. It's almost happened to us before.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for taking the time to watch this. I hope this was helpful to you, because we are leaving tomorrow.
Yay!
To go on our trip to Utah, and we are so excited. But as you're watching this video, we're probably actually on our way back. So anyway, but we just wanted to kind of walk you through the steps of what goes into planning a trip like this, so that maybe if you're new to this, it will be helpful to you.
Yeah, and if there's something that you have to ask and we didn't cover it, just let us know and put in a comment below. We're pretty responsive to that. So
yeah. So if you would like the video, if you actually liked it, don't lie, and subscribe to the channel. We've got a lot more stuff coming up. The actual Utah videos will be coming up very soon.
So if you want to see these amazing locations that we go to and the routes and the actual campsites that we stay at, because you'll be seeing that in videos to come, make sure you subscribe to our Patreon. This is what we want to do, and we have a goal to meet by the end of this year. And so we're trying to get to that, and it would really mean a lot to us. We don't take that lightly.
Yeah, we really appreciate all the love and support, and hope this was helpful to you. Yeah. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.